Okay, picture this for a second. You're just casually scrolling through your phone, checking the weather, maybe looking at a sports score, just going about your normal day. Then suddenly, every single device in the room starts screaming. It's that distinct, bone-chilling emergency alert tone we've all heard, but it's not a weather warning. In our world of constantly shifting alliances and rising global tensions, the unthinkable is basically the ultimate what if. So today, in this explainer, we're breaking down the terrifying minute-by-minute reality of a hypothetical scenario. We're going to look at what actually happens if a nuclear missile is launched at the United States. We're covering the whole shebang, from the high-tech shields floating around in space, right down to the split-second decisions made in the Oval Office.
Ballistic missile threat inbound. Seek immediate shelter. Just hearing those words kind of makes your stomach drop, doesn't it? It sounds exactly like the opening sequence of some crazy Hollywood blockbuster. But the wild reality is, this is the exact real-world phrasing engineered for a genuine alert. If a launch were ever confirmed, this message would instantly hijack your phone, your TV, your radio, everything. We're going to map out exactly what happens from the exact moment an adversary makes that fateful decision all the way to the unimaginable aftermath. And it all happens within a shockingly tight window of time.
Okay, let's dive into this, because the sheer speed of this scenario is absolutely staggering. The clock starts the exact millisecond an intercontinental ballistic missile, like, say, a massive Chinese Dongfeng 41, leaves its silo. At 0 minutes, the launch is detected. By minute 3, the President of the United States is already being whisked away to a highly secure location, and by minute 30, mainland impact. It takes just about half an hour for an ICBM to cross from mainland China to the US. That entire window to detect, decide, and defend is incredibly, terrifyingly compressed.
So you might be wondering, how do we actually know it's happening right at minute 0? Well, a launch of that magnitude isn't exactly something you can keep a secret for more than a few seconds. The US Space Force operates a constellation of satellites sitting way up in high orbit, literally called exquisite satellites. They are specifically designed to sniff out the massive, unmistakable heat signature of a rocket engine igniting. Within seconds, that critical data zips straight to NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command. They're operating deep inside the fortified granite of Cheyenne Mountain, safely sealed behind 25-ton blast doors. By that third minute we talked about, the nuclear football is opened. And fun fact here, it's not actually a football at all. It's a 45-pound aluminum briefcase holding the launch codes. At this point, the entire U.S. response apparatus is wide awake.
All right, that brings us to the absolutely crucial 5 to 20-minute window. Think of this as the Golden Dome phase. You know how Israel has the Iron Dome? Well, the U.S. has invested billions into a massive multi-layered defense system to protect the homeland, and it works in 3 distinct steps. Step 1 is the boost phase. Ideally, we'd hit the missile while it's still over enemy territory, but honestly, that is incredibly difficult to pull off. Step 2 is the mid-course phase, which happens entirely in the cold vacuum of space. The U.S. launches what are called smart rocket interceptors. These are designed to physically slam into the warhead at thousands of miles per hour. It's essentially trying to hit a speeding bullet with another speeding bullet. Finally, if that misses, we enter step 3, the terminal phase. As the weapon comes screaming back into the atmosphere, ground-based systems like THAAD or Aegis ships try to catch it at the very last possible second.
Now, what's really interesting and honestly kind of daunting about this defense strategy is the sheer technological challenge involved. We aren't just dealing with one big, predictable, dumb rocket anymore. Modern weapons use MIRVs. That stands for Multiple Independent Re-Entry Vehicles. Basically, one missile can carry several independent warheads along with a whole bunch of decoys. Plus, newer technology incorporates hypersonic glide vehicles, so instead of following a predictable arcing path like a thrown baseball, these things can actually zigzag and maneuver at blinding speeds to completely trick and bypass the shield. It's the ultimate highest-stakes cat-and-mouse game ever played, and realistically, no defensive shield on Earth is 100% perfect.
If just one of those warheads manages to slip through the Golden Dome, let's say it's heading over a major population center like San Francisco or Washington, D.C., the scale of what happens next is incredibly grim. Modern warheads commonly yield around 5 megatons. To put that frankly unimaginable number into perspective, upon impact, it creates a fireball that actually burns hotter than the center of the sun. Within a several-mile radius of ground zero, massive concrete and steel buildings aren't just knocked over or damaged, they are literally instantly vaporized. But here's the thing, that physical destruction, it's really only part of the story. For people living hundreds of miles away from ground zero, your very first sign of the impact wouldn't be a blinding flash or a deafening boom. It would actually be an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse. This is a massive, invisible burst of energy released by the high-altitude detonation, and it instantly fries absolutely anything containing a microchip. This wave of energy just washes over the entire region, and suddenly, the power grid simply goes dark. And when that happens, this highly delicate, interconnected modern tech society we've built is instantly plunged straight back into an 1800s reality. Just think about it for a second. Your phone, your modern car's computer system, municipal water pumps, hospital life support machines, our entire global supply chain logistics, absolutely all of it relies on microchips that are now completely fried. Vehicles would literally just stop working right in the middle of the highway. Communication networks would vanish entirely. And what that means is coordinating any sort of emergency response, medical aid, or organized evacuation becomes practically impossible. So what exactly is the United States military doing while all of this chaos is unfolding? Well, they certainly aren't just crossing their fingers and waiting to see if the Golden Dome defenses worked. The U.S. operates under a long-standing military doctrine known as Mutually Assured Destruction, or MAD. MAD is this grim, unyielding strategic reality. If you launch a nuclear weapon at us, we will absolutely launch a massive counterstrike right back at you, resulting in the total annihilation of both sides. It guarantees, with cold, hard calculation, that there is no winner in a nuclear exchange, ever.
And to make sure that counterstrike is always a guarantee no matter what happens to the U.S. mainland, the military uses the Nuclear Triad. It's a three-pronged approach. First, you've got land-based silos spread all across the American Midwest. Second, you have B-21 stealth bombers constantly readied up in the air. And third, and perhaps most critically, you have Ohio-class submarines hiding completely undetected deep in the oceans all over the globe. Even if the entire chain of command in Washington, D.C. was completely wiped out, those submarines are just waiting out there in the dark. They carry enough firepower to retaliate massively. And it's exactly this incredibly tense, high-stakes standoff that has actually kept nuclear weapons from being used in conflict since 1945.
But zooming out even further, the true horrors of this scenario don't stop when the missiles finish flying. The macro-global aftermath introduces an entirely new, long-term existential threat, and that is nuclear winter. Scientists warn that the immense firestorms generated by burning cities would pump millions of tons of black soot and smoke directly up into the stratosphere. Once it gets up there, it spreads rapidly across the globe, literally blocking the sun's rays from reaching the Earth's surface. And the climate models on this are just absolutely chilling. Even a so-called limited nuclear exchange would cause global temperatures to plummet by 10 to 15 degrees. That sudden, drastic drop in temperature means immediate, widespread global crop failures. We aren't just talking about a war between two opposing nations at this point. A nuclear winter represents a severe existential threat to every single living thing, plant and animal on the entire planet due to mass starvation.
Look, it is undeniably a heavy, terrifying topic, but understanding these precise stakes and really grasping the fragility of our modern world is the very first step toward ensuring this 30-minute countdown never actually begins. The technology of war is advancing at a blistering pace, and defending against it is way more complex than it has ever been, which leaves us with this final thought to ponder today. As we look at the billions and billions poured into defense, is a flawless space-based missile shield actually possible to achieve? Or is it ultimately just a trillion-dollar pipe dream? Think about it. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Stay curious and keep asking the big questions.